video is going to be a doozy. I'm going to be talking about every country album that I haven't talked about yet this year. 2022 has been an absolutely insane year for music releases. I've talked about 30 different albums on the channel, but I have pretty much just as many that I haven't even talked about at all. Lainey Wilson, Tyler Hubbard had music, even going all the way back to like freaking Muscadine Bloodline, and it stacks up and it's on a long list on my phone and it stresses me out, and I'm like, Grady, just sit your ass down and talk about these albums.
Just do it!
I'm going to talk about 27 different albums. I have them all written down. They're in a hat. I will pull them out one by one and just give you what I remember about it, my one thing that I think about it, some loose thought, something, but I need to assuage myself of the guilt I feel. I'm just gonna do the simple thing of talking about them on camera. But before we get into it, I want to talk to you about the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek, which is the #1 ticketing app with over 28 million downloads. There are more than 70,000 events every single day on SeatGeek. There's sports, there's festivals, there's obviously concerts, and whether you're trying to see Ed Sheeran, whether you're trying to see Zach Bryan or, you know, Taylor Swift. She does have her big Eras tour. SeatGeek has tickets for you at great prices and a very easy to navigate layout. They got the green dots for the good prices, the red dots for the bad prices. We're looking for the green dots because that means you're getting a good deal. You know I had to give you guys the hookup, so if you use my code Grady Smith, you can get $20 off your first order at SeatGeek. That's Grady Smith, just one word, no W. It's not like my Instagram handle, and you can get $20 off your first order. You can also click the link in the description to download the app, and thanks so much to SeatGeek for sponsoring the video. Now to the hat. Let's see who we get first. First album up is Drake Milligan's Dallas-Fort Worth.
Over drinking, under thinking.
This album super surprised me. The look of this guy is kind of Elvis-y, and so is his voice. I understand he kind of came from, I think, America's Got Talent, but this album really surprised me. It sounds almost like the Randall King album. There's touches of Midland. It's like a really high level of classic country production with this crooner's voice. I love the song, Hating Everything She's Trying On. That's funny and sexy. Another one called Over Drinking, Under Thinking. There's a ton on this album I liked, but definitely the sonic comparison that came to mind first for me was Randall King, but I was super into this, and I feel like viewers of this channel will love this album. And also, if you're ever wondering, what is Grady listening to? You should go to my Spotify, because Drake and probably everyone else in this video, they're on my playlist that's just called Grady Smith Favorite Country Music. FYI. All right, first album down. I know that's not much, but you know, this is what we're doing today, okay? There's 27 albums. Next up, Gabe Lee's The Hometown Kid.
Now I'm rusted.
Okay, third Gabe Lee album. Obviously loved Farmland, loved Honky Tonk Hell. That was my #1 album of 2020. And now we got his third LP, The Hometown Kid, and it's still really awesome. Gabe still has that kind of Townes Van Zandt, Bob Dylan-esque quality about him. This one feels a lot more like a live band setting. It's continuing the progression from Farmland being way folkier and stark into Gabe being more of kind of like a rockin' band member. I think sometimes that can make the production feel a little bit messy on songs like Rusty or songs like Over You, but other times that bigger kind of built out quality makes songs really exciting. Like Kinda Man has this 80s new wave feel that I think is awesome. I'm really obsessed with a song in the middle of the album called One of These Days, where you got that harmonica, you got a rambly spoken second verse. To me, it just feels so Gabe, and it makes me so happy. Although, I still love when Gabe is just stark and standing by himself. Buffalo Road feels like the crowd favorite, almost like the Eveline or the Imogene of this album, except this is a really beautiful piano ballad. And I love Gabe so much. I feel like a lot of people are saying this is their favorite. I would say this is my second favorite. I don't think it reaches the heights of Honky Tonk Hell, but I really love it. I love it. Maybe it'll grow on me more. That was longer, but it's Gabe. Okay, next album. Courtney Patton's Electrostatic.
But what would once more grant me but
If you don't know Courtney Patton, she hails from Texas, married to Jason Eady, and is friends with Jamie Lynn Wilson, and she's just one of the best songwriters and singers. And to me, if there's one track you gotta check out from this album, it is the title track, Electrostatic. It's a song about losing her sister, but it could really be about losing any loved one, but feeling in a lightning storm as if they are trying to reach out metaphysically, like through the lightning, through the electrostatic energy in the atmosphere, and touch you as a living person. What an unusual lyric. What a beautiful song. That, to me, it's a well-named album because that's the standout. And I also think that there's some funny moments on here where she's talking about mall shoppers and rich ladies, and you know, she's just got a really wry, down-to-earth, true songwriter's perspective. So that's what I thought about Electrostatic. Next album. We're going... Ooh, Glory Days EP by Rachel McIntyre Smith.
But I guess growing up is learning to live.
I've mentioned Rachel here and there. She was in my 15 Great Things About Country Music Right Now video. Just as an aside, she is a young, up-and-coming singer, songwriter, country artist. Big fan of the channel as well. Her EP is beautiful, spare, really well produced and atmospheric in moments. There's songs like High School Reunion that are fun, but again, the title track, Glory Days, I linked this on my community page. Absolute stunner of a song where you get that kind of washed out, almost like melancholy, early Casey Musgraves vibes a little bit. She's singing about how other girls her age are having babies and tying the knot, and she's just sort of stuck in this glory daze, D-A-Z-E, of thinking about, she feels a little bit trapped in her past and unable to move on. What a beautiful track. And The Woods, that's a smart lyric too. Good job, Rachel. Next up, we got Colby Acuff, Honky Tonk Heaven, not to be confused with Honky Tonk Hell.
Well, I've been drinking in these one-horse towns. I'm a little...
Okay, the things I remember from this album, it's been a while since I listened. I love Colby. He sang that song, If I Were the Devil. I was really obsessed with Dying Breed last year. On this album, there's a slower track called Last Buffalo that is beautiful and really captures kind of the gravel and like slightly yelping quality of Colby's voice. He's an Idaho native, if you didn't know.
Used to be one in a million, now I'm just a bastard.
I'm very into the track Traveling Band. I think that's like a very noodly, super pickin' filled one. So there's a lot of movement on it and it's just super fun. So, and Bad Day to Be a Beer, I did talk about that on the channel. What a fun track. And if you just want to hear the quality in his voice, I would say that's probably a good starting point.
I'm gonna sit right here and tip a few back. It's a bad day to be a beer.
Next up, we got Kameron Marlowe's We Were Cowboys.
We were cowboys, running like...
This album got a ton of hype, and I feel like Kameron Marlowe is one of sort of the next chosen ones by the country music community. There's an energy and a hype around him that is undeniable. On this album, We Were Cowboys, I pretty much get it. It's kind of like a slow burning country rock album. At various points, he reminds me of, vocally, Travis Tritt, Lee Brice, Randy Houser sometimes, and that's high praise. There's other songs on here like This Old Town that kind of give me the same good, sturdy energy as a song like Ain't the Whiskey by Jason Aldean. Other songs on here like Girl on Fire and Long Way Home just have this very sturdy energy and let him really rip vocally. My favorite track actually was a little bit more of a soul moment though, called Ain't Enough Whiskey, that kind of felt like a little bit almost like Eric Church's soul album, a little bit looser, and I think his kind of country rock style really fits with that. It's a bit more laid back and less intense, but I loved hearing that one. Anyway, I get it with Kameron, and interested to see where he goes. Okay, next up we got Morgan Wade's Acoustic Sessions EP.
And I could put a flower on your grave, but it would...
What a pretty, like, short little EP. Pretty simple, to be honest. Flower is a beautiful song. It talks about putting a flower on the grave, but then there's also Kelly's Drive, which is a similarly, like, really sad... So this is a sad EP, okay? We're thinking about death. We're thinking about relationships that have passed. But Kelly's Drive, that is by far one of my favorite tracks, even of the whole year, where she talks about driving by this guy's place just to feel alive or feel the way she felt when she had been there in the past. Man, all of the soul and anger and pain of Morgan's voice, you know, there's not much competing with it. It's an acoustic EP, super beautiful. But I get the sense that she's maybe going to go in a way more produced direction with her future content based on some of what she's been teasing online. Okay, who's up next? We got Tyler Hubbard's Dancing in the Country EP. To be honest, I don't have a ton to say about this that I feel like I wouldn't have just said about his song Dancing in the Country or 5'9". It feels like straight down the middle, like late phase Florida Georgia Line. Sort of what Florida Georgia Line was doing on Can't Say I Ain't Country and Good Times Roll, or Life Rolls On, whatever it was called. That's just sort of what Tyler is doing on this EP. So if you're a fan of that, you will be a fan of this. Predictable to me. Not bad, but not great. It's just there, okay? Dancing in the Country, I'm guessing is going to be the next single from the whole project. 5'9", before everyone's like, you just hate on Tyler. No, I don't. I gave that a good review. Hush your mouth. Okay, next. We got Tyler Childers, Can I Take My Hounds to Heaven? Okay, I avoided this album for a while because I was intimidated by, I don't know, it sort of felt like approaching doing my homework. I'm like, okay, so I have to listen to the same 8 songs 3 times, 3 different ways, and I kind of still feel that way. Like, it's an interesting idea as an album release, especially since it's 8 songs and 2 are instrumental, and a bunch of these he's played before. It kind of felt underwhelming to me that we didn't get that much content. But I did like a lot of what we did get. So it's like, I sort of just wish it had been 8 songs and not like this whole to-do, because the third album, I don't get it. I think it's like not cool. It's his prerogative, but just the whole, all like the lo-fi hip-hop beats.
No, it's a fusion of jazz and funk. It's called junk.
The streams show it. A lot of people tune out at that part of the album if you look at how many streams it gets on Spotify. My favorite of the new tracks, because I really do like Angel Band, is definitely Old Country Church. Old Country Church has like a melodic sensibility that reminds me almost of Delta Dawn by Tanya Tucker, which I think is really cool. And when it comes to the differences of the 3 albums, I'm a Jubilee boy. I like the horns. I like that it feels really small town and southern, whereas the Hallelujah versions are a lot more blues and guitar based. It feels like of the Jubilee tracks, they all have like less streams than the Hallelujah one, but I see Way of the Triune God making its comeback and actually getting the views, and I appreciate that, because that is definitely probably like the coolest production on the whole album. It's so funky, so many horns, it feels almost silly but exciting, very southern gospel. I really love how Way of the Triune God came out, and I'd heard the live version of that song for like a year now at this point, but that might be like the most whimsical moment of the full set.
Faith too strong to be left out the way.
But I don't know. First off, I'm looking at myself on camera. I'm just exactly the color of that album cover. But in general, that album, I don't know. It felt like less than the sum of its parts to me. Do y'all agree? Am I being too harsh? I don't know. Still love Childers, but I wouldn't mind just like a normal, straightforward album from him. Like, not a fiddle album, not a crazy gospel experiment. Just like, where are you at in life? Here are songs that I'm feeling right now that are a little just more straightforward. I want everyone in the mainstream to be weirder, and I want my like indie guys on the side to be more normal. Okay, but next. Maddie Tae's Through the Madness, Volume 1. Wow.
No one's gonna judge you.
It's been a long time since I listened to this. All I really think about in terms of a song I really liked from this album was probably Don't Make Her Look Dumb. That song, I think it's a Laurie McKenna co-write. I could be totally wrong. It's okay, we're moving quick today. but that song I thought captured a unique tension in a relationship of like sort of a girlfriend wanting a guy to not make her girl look stupid. Like she cares more about you than you seem to care about her. I thought that was a really real sentiment, and I always think Maddie and Tae write about really real sentiments, but they gotta get out of this production bubble they're in. They have fallen so hard into what I call the Valley of Blah, which is sort of overseen, I suppose, by Lady Antebellum and Little Big Town and all the people that love sort of adult contemporary production that just does not capture the spunk and the soul that people like to listen to, you know? Maddie and Tae started with Girl in a Country Song, and I'm like, bring them back. Get some of that energy back in your songs. We need it, please. I don't even think I've listened to Through the Madness Volume 2 because I'm bored by them right now. And that kills me to say. I wrote a whole freaking feature on these girls because I was such a believer, but like I need the energy back. I need the main character energy back in their music, and I feel like they gotta strong arm everyone around them and just be badass because they are badass. I'm criticizing them because I believe in them. Okay, next we got the John Anderson tribute album. This is a great tribute album, okay? John Anderson's last album was kind of this legacy moment. He was reflecting on his life with all these somber songs like Years, but this is much more of a celebratory moment for John Anderson, and the songs on here are awesome. Ashley McBryde, good work snagging Straight Tequila Night. She sounds amazing on that. I love hearing Luke Combs on Seminole Wind. And then some of the more out-of-the-box choices on here. The Childers cover is amazing. I loved Sierra Farrell's take on Years. She totally transforms that song. Just all around an exciting and good album. The Eric Church moment's cool. I love the people they chose. It's like straight out of my wheelhouse and stuff I talk about on this channel. But if you're a John Anderson fan, or if you're not, what a great way to kind of get acquainted with his songwriting. But yeah, in terms of just a clear favorite, my favorite John Anderson song is Straight Tequila Night. It just reminds me of my dad. He used to love that song. And I love Ashley McBryde's voice, and so I'm just going with that one. Next up, Megan Moroney's Pistol Made of Roses.
Casey's having a baby, the high school football team.
If you have seen my video where I react to kind of buzzy country stars, I was just flabbergasted by Hair Salon. I loved that song so much. And I love a lot of what Megan is bringing. That sultry, deep, husky voice, but kind of juxtaposed against the sort of Barbie doll glamour that she brings visually. She has great writing, though. Like, she's not to be underestimated. Fix You Too, that is a smart song about how they're kind of making a home together, but she also wants to fix this guy. So Megan's really amazing at like sad, sort of somber vibes. You've heard that on Tennessee Orange. You definitely hear it on Hair Salon. She even goes into kind of sauntering, sexier, kind of like naughty, fun vibes on a song like He Made Me Do It. But the question I'm left wondering after hearing the EP is, can she pull off like a fun party banger? Can she just do something that is silly and lighthearted and fun? Is she interested in that? I don't know, but that's a side of her that I'm curious to see. And I suppose we will find out soon because, you know, someone's going to have to sign her or something. She's in the Hot 100 independently. Very impressive and just a ton of potential on that EP. Okay, next up, we got the Panhandlers. West Texas is the best Texas.
West Texas.
Okay, so fun. Y'all know I love the Panhandlers. It's this Texas supergroup made of Cleto Cordero, William Clark Green, Josh Abbott, and John Bowman. Not Bauman, not Bauman. I've said it wrong every single time I've ever mentioned him on the channel. But Bowman, I think I can finally do it right. Man, I love them. All of this kind of like mundane, silly West Texas imagery is on here. And my favorite moment like that is a dumb song called the Chilton Song.
Rim it with salt.
I'm obsessed with this song. I've listened to it a million times. It's literally a cocktail recipe. It's literally about a drink that I guess they like out there that is a salt-rimmed glass with vodka, soda, and a bunch of lemon juice. And they just talk about making it and how you want it after a hard day. It's so silly. I love how as the song goes on, they keep adding, you know, or 2 or 3 or 4 shots into the drink. There's a whole spoken word bridge where they just tell you how to make it. It's got like everything that makes the Panhandlers fun. Harmony, humor, West Texas imagery, a sense of place. There's a bunch of good songs on here, but to me, I'm just going to spend this whole review saying, I like the Chilton song. Okay, who is up next? Cole Chaney's Our Vinyl Sessions.
No mountain, no man between us.
Okay, Cole Chaney, he is like, if you're into Charles Wesley Godwin, if you're into that mountain holler sound, you got to have him on your radar. You can't be ignoring him anymore. He really broke out last year. He was on my best of list, songs like Silver Run and Another Day in the Life, and that album Mercy is amazing. And this is just kind of a taste of what is to come. Now, he's been playing with this band called Wolf Pen Branch and all of his shows this year, and you got like all these strings and a bunch more guitar and a ton of harmony, and they fill out his sound amazingly. But on this album is just him. It's a beautifully produced Our Vinyl Session. You've got the gorgeous videos that go with it, but it's a lot more stark of a sound. And I think left to his own devices, you almost really hear like the Nirvana, grungy, dark influence that goes through a lot of Cole Chaney's music. I even told him, I'm like, bro, I'm obsessed with your song Spirit every time I've seen it live. It seems so hopeful and moving and about like your soul kind of, there is some interface with the divine on that song. And yet when I hear it on this album, it feels like a lot more longing and dark and kind of focused on death. And so I was like, when you record that for real, I want Wolf Pen Branch on the real track. Grind is another song on here about just like working hard. It's so Appalachian. There's a ton of great music on here. And I'm just saying, Cole Chaney, note him. Zach Bryan fans, note him. Charles Wesley Godwin fans, you're going to want to know the name because he's amazing. Okay, who's up next? Ray Fulcher's Spray Painted Line.
If you love anything like you dance, darling.
Okay, Ray Fulcher, common co-writer of Luke Combs, so you've definitely heard some Ray Fulcher songs, whether or not you do. And this album is his own songs, and a lot of them are amazingly written. I listened to this so long ago back in Virginia, so forgive me for not knowing all the tracks, but I do remember adoring the song Compliment. I think that song is fun, funny, well-written, straight down the middle, rollicking country song. So, if nothing else, go listen to Compliment by Ray Fulcher, and you won't regret it. Okay. Whiskey Myers Tornillo, or Tornillo. None of us know how to say it.
Grandpa had a rifle that he took from a Viet Cong.
This album is so rocking. I really think they chose the right lead single, John Wayne. I think that is the best of the very rock-heavy tracks on here. It's really a party. The other one I love is called Feats. That one's a total jam and super funky. But being as I am a sad boy country fan, it's really those last couple tracks like Heart of Stone that I find the most poignant, the most moving, and the most memorable. But that could be like a subjective thing. This album does stretch the term of like Texas country more than most. You're like, well, this is pretty much just a straightforward rock album, but I'm not going to get caught up on that point. Love Whiskey Myers, and I love just what they represent, being kind of like these kings of the alternative scene. But to be honest, I do feel like a lot of this album just kind of runs together into like funky rock mode, and that's not my favorite. Next up, we have Ronnie Dunn's 100 Proof Neon. This is a strong, if kind of one-note album. Ronnie Dunn's voice is amazing, and BT Dubs, you should go watch my video on Brooks and Dunn, because that's also amazing. But he uses it mostly just to talk about drinking and neon. This is a well-named album, because boy, is it a lot about drinking and neon. There's some covers that you will recognize on here, like of The Blade by Ashley Monroe, as well as Where the Neon Lies, which we first heard with Tristan Merez. And I actually think there's a lot of really great songs. In fact, my favorite one is just called Road to Abilene. Which is not only a beautiful melody, but I also feel like it brings out the best in Parker McCollum's voice as well. I like the Jake Worthington collab. Something I Can't Have has so much harmony and so much steel. That's one of my favorites. And one of the most surprising moments to me musically of the whole year is on this song, If Love Ever Comes My Way, when Ronnie goes into full-on falsetto mode. It's sort of strange, sort of surprising, but I think I like it.
Say goodbye.
Then we got 49 Winchester, Fortune Favors the Bold.
Say damn, darling.
I just saw 49 Winchester at Greenville Fest, and it was so awesome to have an album that I loved from a band I'm very intrigued by so live up to it live. I mean, lead singer's voice, I don't even know his name, is crazy and sounds even better than it does on this album on a live stage. I know Luke Combs recently wore their shirt, and I'm glad that the word is getting out on 49 Winchester, not just because they're Virginia boys like me, but because they're awesome. If you like the sound almost of like Larry Fleet, even a little bit Chris Stapleton, maybe it's just a big bearded dude thing, you will like 49 Winchester. There's so many songs on here that are a little bit like more upbeat and kind of fun, like the title track, Fortune Favors the Bold, which is such an anthem about taking adventurous risks in life. But then there's also slower, more somber moments like Russell County Line that are just stunners. Epic, stunning, beautiful. And I even get shades of like early Zac Brown Band on stuff like the opener, Annabelle. So I'm big on 49 Winchester. You should check out this album, and I just think they're great. Then we have, let's see, Aaron Watson's Unwanted Man.
You'll find behind my crooked smile.
This album definitely slipped by me for the most part. Granted, I was in the throes of moving and just, you may as well throw out a whole month of your life when you were doing that, because I don't remember it well, but I did give it a listen, I remember, on the way to Nashville, and it didn't stick with me as much as other Aaron Watson albums have in the past. Now, I think the opening track, or at least the title track, Unwanted Man, is a stunner. There's another one on here called Cheap Seats that was my other favorite. I think they opened the album. But otherwise, it is going to be a perfectly likable and pleasant, if unremarkable, Aaron Watson album. This is giving me more vibes of like King of Saturday Night than it necessarily is Red Bandana. Doesn't feel as like epic in its scope, but it does feel a little bit of a touch more serious. I don't know. I feel stupid talking about this one because I just like Aaron a lot, but it kind of fell through the cracks for me. And I know he had to get vocal surgery, so maybe it's just a story of promotion. Of, he was kind of off the radar because he couldn't talk for a long time, and maybe that's why the album slipped me by. I don't know. This isn't a review. What is this one? I just wanted to mention it. Okay. Then we got Lee Hutchinson, Songs I'll Never Play Again.
How could you lie that you're on my side? I've seen your plastic grin.
Lee Hutchinson made that awesome EP, Slot Machine Syndrome, last year, and this is another great EP. If you like classic country, if you love a beautiful, full tone, if you like a bunch of steel, you're gonna love Lee Hutchinson. There's a couple tracks on here I love. A funner moment, or at least slightly upbeat, because it's not the most fun album, is called Preservation. I absolutely adore the melody of that song, but I think my favorite musical moment is a track called, it's track 2, let me look up the title, If You Don't Want Me.
If there's nothing left that I can do.
If You Don't Want Me has this build coming out of the bridge into the final part of the song, and it is so exciting. He growls a little bit, there's a little bit of anger in that. Such an awesome musical moment. Plus, it's fun to watch like a former squeaky clean American Idol contestant have, a video where he's covered in blood and murdering people, And there's a song on here called Devil Woman, so it's just a fun change. He's doing cool stuff. Next, we got Charley Crockett, the man from Waco.
Take a look at me. I'm just a clown.
Now, I love Charley Crockett, some of the coolest crooning style, like that kind of bayou crossed with like West Texas, sort of just weird, unusual vibe, weird, unusual fashion sense. He's such a cool artist to follow, but he's very prolific in how much he releases, and that kind of vintage style definitely can run together for me. I don't think there's anything on this album quite as like singular as Welcome to Hard Times. That really felt like it was making a statement in this moment. But it's like another beautiful entry in his catalog. My favorite track is Trinity River. That's a very cool song from this album, and that's the one I remember just when I see this title. So go check out Trinity River, and yeah, that's all.
Trinity River, such a dirty little river.
Okay. The Wilder Blues self-titled album.
God, I'm feeling
Okay, I love the Wilder Blues, Zane Williams' band. The harmonies are second to none. There are times where you feel like you're a little bit listening to the Eagles, which is so gorgeous. There are tracks on here that have this sort of lush feeling like Picket Fences and the Birds of Youth that really do remind me of their first album back when they were called Hill Country and had songs like The Eagle and Dixie Darlin'. Man, those songs are totally gorgeous, but there's a moment that they take a pretty different turn for them, almost in a Fleetwood Mackey direction. It's called Feelin' the Miles, about how it's hard being out on the road. And that song has such unusual melodic shifts, the way you kind of fall into the chorus and out of the verses. It's just so different. That song, I keep coming back to it all year, and I just want to get to that moment when they start going into I sing along to an old refrain. That shift in the way that the chords go from like minor into major is so, you just feel like you fall into it in a relaxed manner. Primo, we love the Wilder Blue. Next person out of the hat is American Aquarium, and I'm gonna do my best with this title. Chico Macamico.
We gave in to the simplest of desires.
Now, when I just saw this title, I thought it was Chickamacamico until I heard the song, and he's like, down in Chico Macamico. I think BJ Barham has one of the coolest voices and has some of the best lyrics of anyone in my lifetime. That said, this is probably my least favorite American Aquarium album, simply because it's a bit downer. It lacks some of the sort of harsher edges that I've come to expect from their albums and the almost punk vibe. This is a more somber album. It's thinking about death and healing as well as fatherhood and commitment. And, you know, maybe the further he gets away from that dark side of himself as he's been sober, it makes sense. This is an album. It's very much like a dad album. And it's not that it's bad at all. I just think I have, you know, this was my honest feeling about it when I first listened. It's just like, oh, this is a quieter moment for American Aquarium. I thought that track that they released, All I Needed, was really fun, but it is such like, you know, it's a fake out for this album. It's much sadder than that, but boy, if you want a beautiful track, check out The First Year. Then we got Priscilla Block and Welcome to the Block Party.
Why'd you have to come back in right when I was...
I listened to this forever ago. Now, y'all know I like Priscilla, even if I haven't really liked the songs that have been out at radio, like Just About Over You and My Bar. I don't feel like they show off all of the sort of silly, high energy, smart writing nature of her. Now, there is a track on here, the one I remember most is called Ever Since You Left. That to me feels like it could be on a Morgan Wallen album. It's fun, it's rocking, and to me it's like a competitive advantage over what a lot of other people are doing.
I went right back to the bar.
And it's definitely more in line with that song Off the Deep End that she's kind of been pushing now. I'm guessing they'll move past this album, but I don't know. To me it was a bit underwhelming, but I see the potential there still. Then we got Lainey Wilson's Bell Bottom Country.
I got a heart like a truck. It's been
This probably deserves a little bit more than just this, but here we are at the end of the year and this is how I'm doing it. This album is really Lainey, and I think that is half really good and half interesting, but maybe not as effective. Now, it's a Jay Joyce album, so you get a lot of this kind of rocking, funkier side of the production, which is not my favorite. I think the first half of this album with songs like Hillbilly Hippie and Roadrunner, it's okay. Like, it's a cool sound. I get the sense that Lainey really likes it, but to me, those songs feel like a little bit too loose and yet also a little bit too literal. There's songs where it's like, I'm a hillbilly hippie or I'm a roadrunner, and those kind of self-definitional songs aren't as interesting to me as the songs where she's just showing us who she is instead of telling us who she is. That's why a track like Watermelon Moonshine to me is way more interesting. It still evokes the South and young love without being called, I'm a young Southern lover. Now, that said, there are definitely moments that completely work. That's like, you know, there's my negative thought on the album. But songs like Grease, I think, are really cool. Even Hold My Halo, That's, I think, a cooler way of saying you are that same chick that is like a hillbilly hippie, or you're on the run. Like Hold My Halo is a way cooler way of saying like I'm that kind of naughty girl. Two big standout songs on here that feel really different than the rest of the album. One's called Wildflowers and Wild Horses. I have to imagine this is kind of her intro to going into Yellowstone, that she's going to sing this or something on the show, because it feels very Western, galloping, super different, and almost Ian Munsick-ish from the rest of the album. But I like that track. And then a track that works way better than it has any right to is the cover of What's Up by 4 Non-Blondes at the end of the album.
And I said,
She puts that in double time, and it just makes the whole song come to life. I've never liked that song, and I absolutely love her cover of it. So you add that in with songs like Heart Like a Truck, which is still one of the vocal moments of the year, and Watermelon Moonshine, and you got a solid, interesting, very Lainey album, and who doesn't want to root for Lainey? Noah Kahan's Stick Season. Look, this isn't really a country album, so I won't talk about it for a long time, but you gotta love the song Stick Season, because it's amazing.
As you promised me that I was more than all the miles combined, you must have...
Definitely fits in with that kind of Pacific Northwest, although I guess he's a Vermont guy, though. But it fits in with that whole, like, almost like Mumford Revival sound going on right now. But check the song Growing Pains for some of the best lyrics of the year.
Oh, if all my time was wasted.
Then we got Muscadine Bloodline's Dispatch to 16th Ave.
Another murder on Music Road.
I really like the album. They're so prolific in how much they release that I feel like this album is already like old news, even though it came out at the beginning of the year. But the title track, obviously, is going to be my favorite from that record. What a statement. I've talked about that song before. You know, it's a little bit of a death of country music type song, but it is such a cool statement. And the harmonies sound good. They're just doing the thing. They're doing it so damn well. And then my buddy Ben put this in, and it's literally the last one. I'm not even faking it. This wasn't even planned. If you wrote a song that summed up 2022, wow. Am I just supposed to say what I would call it?
Or it could be the album for 2022.
Wow. Well, you'll find out soon. List week is coming soon. So if you want to know what all my best albums are, it's coming. You know, I'm starting to work on those lists, and that's why I wanted to get some of these out of the way. I know I haven't mentioned Asher McBride's Lindyville. I'm still halfway through that. I tried Breland's album and only got halfway through that. I mean, what was that song where he talks about a barbecue baddie? I'm like, bro, you went to Georgetown. This would be like if I tried to fake being country. I don't know. There's so much I still need to listen to, and I probably won't. You know, I'm one guy. This puts me at like 60 country albums for the year. That's not including everything else I listen to in my free time, but wow, I feel relieved. I've at least mentioned them, okay? Let me know your thoughts on some of these albums. My favorites of that mix are probably Gabe's. Definitely 49 Winchester, Wilder Blue. Shoulders is high up and not one of my favorites. Same with Lainey. There's a lot. You heard me say what I said. You know, make your own conclusions. Thanks for participating in this strange experiment. We just knocked out 27 albums. And honestly, guys, that's all you're getting on them, so no whining, okay? It's better than nothing. I will be back with more content soon. I love y'all, and goodbye.